Now, back to Access Tech Live, the latest in tech and accessibility with Stephen Scott and Marc Aflalo.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Access Tech Live. Just a reminder, of course, to get involved with our question of the day. A great chance for you to answer the question, what do you remember of the Mac? What was your first experience of the Mac? What was your first one? Get in touch and tell us. Social media, write in the comments. Do whatever it is you do. Just get in touch. Write a letter, stick it in a pigeon or something and send it to, throw it out the window and see what happens. Listen, CES, of course, happened a couple of weeks ago. We had some fantastic episodes, 2 hour-long specials that you can catch up with right now on AMI Plus. You can also find them on YouTube as well. So go there and watch those, but not right now because we're giving you another exclusive look at some of the conversations we had after our cameras stopped rolling on those 2 specials, Marc.
CES, the gift that keeps on giving. After the live show, Stephen, we caught up with Sandy Lacy. She's the executive director of the Howe Innovation Center at the Perkins School for the Blind. Now, we started our conversation by asking Sandy what the Howe Innovation Center actually is.
The Howe Innovation Center is really focused on catalyzing and convening an ecosystem of support around disability technologies. So we're really focused on connecting innovators with the community of people with disabilities so that better co-designed accessible products make it to market.
So essentially you're linking together the people who are creating products with the people who use them, right?
That's right. We are creating a variety of different partnerships so that we can remove friction points in the innovation process. So an innovation ecosystem is really comprised of startups, investors, academia and research institutions, large corporations that care about disability inclusion and accessibility, physical test beds, government agencies, basically any entity that cares about accelerating innovation in accessibility and disability technologies. We're working alongside them so that we can get more inclusive designed products into market.
What kind of friction do you encounter when you're either working with the companies who are designing stuff or the disability community? Where do you find the most friction that you have to try to alleviate?
Yeah, well, I think entrepreneurship in general, there's a ton of friction points that entrepreneurs and founders face when trying to build a company. But specifically in disability tech, there's 2 really unique friction areas that I think are quite unique to building in the space of disability. The first is finding customers for primary market research and user testing. So let's say you're building a fintech app for millennials with student loan debt. Well, it's not going to be hard to find 1,000 millennials to respond to a survey and 300 to test your product for initial feedback, because guess what? A lot of millennials have student loans. But if you're building something for people who are deaf and hard of hearing, for example, how do you go about finding your customer? Well, usually entrepreneurs in this space, they go to organizations, disability organizations that work with that community of people with disabilities, trying to find access to customers. And Perkins receives inbound inquiries like this all the time from student groups, entrepreneurs, even Fortune 100 companies are looking for access to our community of people with disabilities for primary market research and user testing. But we're not alone in this. I think a lot of disability organizations receive similar inbound requests, but our organizations aren't really functionally built to meet those demands from the innovation community. They're built to serve the community of people with disabilities that they were stood up to serve. So we are hoping to make it easier for innovators, whether they're designing specifically for people with disabilities or not, maybe they're just building a product for the general population, to find our community and to co-design alongside them and to understand their innovation opportunity areas from the beginning.
Now, there's an interesting flip side to this, and I face this a lot as a blind consumer, where you have a company who wants to create a product, a really interesting product perhaps in their view, that can make my life easier. And I never asked for it. Right. I didn't want it.
Right.
Huge amounts of money are spent developing it.
Right.
And then it comes to market and fails because guess what? No blind people asked for it, so no one buys it.
Right.
This happens a lot. It's probably not unique. In fact, I'm more than certain it's not unique to blind people, but it does happen a lot in the fields of one particular area you mentioned there was navigation. So how do you combat that? How do you make sure that companies can stay on track with the message from the community?
It's a great point, and we've seen it time and time again. So There's a lot of well-intentioned entrepreneurial energy that just isn't necessarily being channeled towards problems that the disability community experiences. So we're really hoping to crowdsource and amplify those innovation challenges that the disability community would like to see entrepreneurs tackle, and we're working on a variety of different ways in which we can go about doing that. A lot of it too, though, is really entrepreneurs, like the example that you used about in the navigation space, that you didn't ask for it, it's not of use to you, it gets to the market and it fails. A lot of the times they're actually not aware that other companies have already walked that path, and you can learn from people who have preceded you in an entrepreneurial journey. So we're really using research as a great way to help a variety of folks within the disability ecosystem understand what's already been built, who funded it, what happened with that product, and so that entrepreneurs can actually find each other. We've created a market map of innovations specifically for the blind and the visually impaired, with over half of them being in the navigation space, so that startups within that space can see who their competitors are, investors can understand who's already out there when they're going about their due diligence. So we're really taking a research-first approach.
I want to ask you as well, because of course this is so multifaceted, right? And you talk about the companies and the creation of the products, but I also think that there's sometimes a challenge for creators, for entrepreneurs who perhaps are sitting there thinking, I want to build this product, and they want to talk to the community, but the community itself maybe doesn't exactly know either it wants it or it needs it.
Yes.
So do you try and sort of, I guess, harness that message as well? Because that can be challenging for entrepreneurs.
Absolutely. So something that we're very focused on doing at the Howe Innovation Center is actually building a community of people with disabilities to inform innovators. We're in the very, very early stages of doing this, but we want to make it as seamless as possible for, it's not just entrepreneurs, it's student groups. So people who are even like earlier in their professional career trajectory, all the way to Fortune 100 companies who know that they should be designing products and services in partnership with people with disabilities, but they themselves have trouble finding 50 folks who are blind or low vision to test their products with. We want to focus on creating that community, standardizing incentives around that community, and making it very easy for anybody who's basically building a product or service for even the general population to learn from and understand what the experience and the needs are of somebody with a disability, so that that is informed at the beginning and not an afterthought. I've been in tech for 20 years. I've been in the disability tech space for just almost 2 now, and something I've really come to understand is that tech has done a pretty good job of prioritizing privacy and security in all of our product developments that are out there on the market. But accessibility and inclusive design has not always been at the forefront or a priority in product development. We want to change that.
Sandy, do you only work with blind, low vision, or all disability?
So at Perkins, we have around 200 children on campus who have multiple complex disabilities. 50% of them have a second disability. So most of them have a blindness or low vision, but they also have a second disability. We serve 1,400 kids across the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, also with multiple complex disabilities. We're an international NGO. We're in over 12 countries across the globe. There are 240 million children in the world with a disability. And so when I came on board to start the Howe Innovation Center, I looked at our community, our stakeholders, and I realized that if we were going to try to catalyze and convene an innovation ecosystem, focusing exclusively on blindness and low vision actually wasn't going to be serving our community of kids with disabilities, because there's many overlaps between blindness and deafness, blindness and a mobility disability, autism, ADHD, you name it. So we are pan-disability, and at the Howe Innovation Center we're actually across all age ranges as well. Perkins, our educational programs focus on preparing our kids for the world, and the Howe Innovation Center is really focused on preparing our world for our kids.
We're, of course, in the middle of Braille Literacy Month, and we just celebrated World Braille Day as well.
Yes.
I want to ask you a little bit about Braille and how that impacts in the business sense, because I wonder how companies understand how to implement Braille into their products, into their design these days.
Yeah, Braille is fascinating. I'm personally very fascinated with Braille. The Perkins School for the Blind, we actually in 1953 invented the Perkins Brailler, which is a main way for folks who are blind or low vision to produce Braille, and we still manufacture and distribute this product across the globe. You know, tactile display innovation is fascinating. It's not something that before I even came to Perkins I was aware of. I actually had the misconception that most folks who are blind or low vision are Braille readers, and that's completely false. 10% of people who are blind or low vision can read Braille, and there's a lot of reasons as to why that is. It's super hard to learn, and access to a teacher is very important. There are companies out there that are trying to gamify learning Braille, which I think is really fascinating, through technology. So somebody might be in a place where they don't have access to a teacher, but the technology can actually make it more fun and accessible. There are companies that are innovating in surface technology so that actuators that move like the pins up and down the surfaces don't have to be repeatedly replaced over a period of time. There's a lot of really fascinating innovation in the tactile display space. And, you know, I would say as a sighted person, when I joined Perkins, I really have been on a long listening journey over the last 2 years. And I had a question for some of my colleagues, which was, you know, what is the importance of Braille now that we have audio technology, right? And I learned so much about how the importance of, you know, reading with your own voice, being able to take notes on your own or write on your own, being able to join along while participating in group song, for example. All of these reasons are why Braille is incredibly important and continues to remain important today, even with the advent of maybe substitutive technologies.
Sandy, thank you so much for taking the time to join us. You have a standing invitation to come back on whenever you want to.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I've had a wonderful time.
That was Sandy Lacy there, the Executive Director at the Howe Innovation Center at Perkins School for the Blind. Talking my language about Braille, Marc.
It is your language, indeed. When we come back, we get to your answers to our question of the day and the reason why phrasing these things are very, very important. Stick around.
There's more Access Tech Live to come. Get involved and have your say at Access Tech Live on social media. We'll be right back.